Hey Eurovision fans, Aiko will represent Czechia in Eurovision 2024 with her song Pedestal. We're going to listen and react to the live performance from the national final, talk about a potential strategy for Czechia in the contest, look at Czechia's stats over the last 10 years, and then I'm going to give you my opinion how I think this could do in Malmö. So let's kiki. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Tom. I'm an Irish Eurovision analyst, and you can find all of this stuff on my Eurovision channel. So the Czech national final is called ESCZ. Live show happened on December 4th, and then the results were announced yesterday. In a slightly anticlimactic way, they just kind of dumped it there. So last year we got a results show, this year we didn't. In the end, the winner was Aiko. She had a very large international vote, not so much Czech vote, which I'm going to talk about later. With the formula that the Czech delegation were using, she ended up having the highest score by quite a large margin. So I've already done a review of all 7 songs before. This is that video. I put Aiko as my number 1 based on the studio versions. The difference between number 1 and number 5 was really small. I felt like the top 5 were quite close. I would have been happy with any of them, to be honest. So a little bit about Aiko. Her name is Alina Shermanova Kostebelova. That's quite a mouthful. She was originally born in Moscow, but from what I know, she grew up and lived the most of her life in Czechia, and now she lives in Brighton, which is just south of London. So the national final was done in the Roxy Club. The audio isn't fantastic. That was the same with everybody. Because I already reacted to the studio version in my last video, I'm going to react to the live version because just so I have something new to react to. I'll try and keep as much of the audio and visuals as possible. I'm pretty sure it'll be okay. Okay, this is Aiko Pedestal, one in my secret bang. Got a lot of support now, so 5 of them on the stage. Styling wise, I kind of like what she's wearing. I think it's kind of cool looking. And I like her hair as well. I wonder if she's going to change that for Eurovision. Vocally it sounds fine. Again, we got to keep in mind the vocals were not great for everybody. And there's a bit of choreo going on here. Obviously it's a much simpler version because it's a smaller stage. So she's great energy, very angry, very angsty, kind of like high energy. And I like that. I think it makes it really stand out. It's that kind of like fiery, feisty lady. And she's getting up close to the camera. She's getting a bit grungy, so it's going to stand out visually in her performance style. And she's playing now with softer singing as well, as opposed to the shouty. So she's playing with her voice tone as well. I like a lot of the choreo. I think that's a lot of it's ready to go. Just neaten it up, obviously. Better camera angles. Song-wise, I think the song is pretty I think it's pretty good. I think that Put Yourself on the Pedestal bit is quite catchy. I think that's quite catchy. I've had it in my head a lot the last couple of days. And I love this kicking now, this kind of like feisty fighter spirit that she's bringing to the song. A little bit breathless now. She's gonna have to. She's got 6 months to practice, so don't worry. Yeah, just finding that balance between being energetic and fighting, but also that we can hear the song. And they're really they're loving the floor right now. So I think these acrobatics look really cool, kind of contortionist. Oh. I forgot about the scream. I think the scream can work. I think keep that, but just, yeah, neaten it all up. Okay, so I was focusing a little bit more on the performance there. Again, if you want to see my reaction to the song, it's more in that other video. But let's talk about the song now. I think the song is relatively good. I don't think it's like a wow song. That Put Yourself on a Pedestal is quite catchy. I have had it in my head, but I don't think it's got like a super strong melody in the same way that when you hear Arcade, for example, you're like, wow, this melody is extremely strong. This is a winner. That's not its strongest point. I would quite like if they added in a second melody or an extra melody in the background, perhaps towards the later part of the songs. That performance was only 2:20, so they have an extra 40 seconds that she could add. So I would like there to be a little bit of a revamp where they use the full time, maybe add in something a little bit extra, maybe go into a quieter part and then like have a big explosion at the end or something, maybe bring in like an electronic melody line in the background that builds in the second and then climaxes in the third. So I just like a little bit more with the song, because as a song I think it's kind of like a borderline qualifier. I don't think it's an obvious yes. The strong part of this for me is the fact that it looks and sounds so different. So this kind of like feisty, fighty, angry woman being powerful on the stage. I really can't think of that many recent artists in Eurovision who had that kind of like real rock girl, grungy, like no holds barred persona on the stage. So like, first of all, that feels super Czech to me. It feels they're kind of like doing their own thing, playing by their own playbook, which I really, really love. There's a very strong Czech identity for me in this. But then, yeah, that really stands out. I genuinely can't think of anyone. Again, please do leave me comments saying, oh, what about this one? Obviously, we had AWS from Hungary. Vizslat Nat was that song called? Vizslat Nyar. I can't do Magyar at all. And then we've got other songs like Hadrid Mund Sigur and whatnot. So we have had some like real heavy rock entries from predominantly male groups, obviously Måneskin as well. But in terms of like a solo female artist doing a big rock song with choreography, that as a package is, I think it's quite original for Eurovision. So I think that's going to stand out if they do it well. Loads of things can be elevated to here, and they've got tons of time. They've got 6 months to work on this. Definitely the vocals. Really breathy. She needs to pace it out better. She maybe needs to let the dancers do a little bit more of the work. I like that she gets down on the grind, so keep that, but it needs to not be sacrificing the vocals to keep that movement. Costume wise, yeah, we need a massive elevation. The costumes are just kind of cool, but just really, really simple. So the two dancers need like something really, really, really cool and imaginative, creative, maybe a little bit more color as well. It seemed very black. If you're going to go all black, that's fine, but then give us layers, give us textures, give us different feelings within the black. Don't just give us like everyone wearing black lycra. But at the core, I think her style and identity and her talent is a really, really good starting point. Definitely, I think that the Czech delegation should be aiming to qualify with this. It will have to be elevated. Of course it's going to be elevated. If you look at Vesna's performance last year in the national final compared to the final package, that is like 3 leagues of elevation: vocals, visuals, costumes, LEDs, everything. Plus also the fact it's just going to be at a better venue. Like, you know, they're in a club on a small, thin stage. She can't move forwards and backwards that much. She's kind of going to only move side to side and kind of go up and down on the ground. Whereas on the Eurovision stage, she can go A, B, C, D, all over the place. Way more different camera angles as well. They can come from above, they can come from down below. They've got guys who can run around on the stage with the steady cams. So there's so much scope for elevation here, and they've got tons of time. And I think this is what the Czech delegation do, is they do this early so that they have a lot of time to plan for the future and make everything look really great. The last 2 years their staging with Vesna and We Are Domi has been exceptional. I thought those were 2 of my favorite stagings of both competitions. So we have no reason really to doubt them. I know that Benny Christo's staging wasn't great, but something was weird going on behind the scenes there. It felt like they'd lost their spirit, or maybe it was a different team or something. Let's have a quick chat about this controversy from the national final. So in case you didn't know, there was a weighting system where 70% of the international votes were counted and 30% of the Czech votes. And this led to a situation where Eli won the Czech vote by a huge margin, I think almost 60% of the Czech vote, and Aiko won the international vote by approximately 60%. And by the merit of the international vote being weighted more, even if you'd multiply both of them by 50%, Aiko still would have won. There's a little bit of controversy now, because if you are weighting something and you've one group that's much bigger than the other, really you should make both groups the same size and then multiply by 70% and 30%, because then you could have a group that's got 1 million in it and another group that's got 10. 30% of 1 million is going to be much bigger than 70% of 10. You should adjust for that if it is technically a weighting system. So this was brought up on Twitter. It doesn't change the results at the end of the day. So, you know, it's a little bit of a storm in the teacup. It's a small delegation. Possibly they made a mistake. Possibly they intended it to be the way that they did, but they just worded it wrong, which is also a possibility as well. Another controversy coming from this is the fact that the Czech vote was basically overridden. They voted for Eli and this was discounted. I understand what the Czech delegation are doing. They're basically living year to year. Their funding is not secure. We see every year they're quite late. There's a lot of aren't they going to show up this year or be able to show up this year. And I remember last year hearing a rumor that they were required to get top 10 in order to get funding for the next year. So they have high demands put on them to get a good result. If you want to get a good result, the best way is to put out a vote to the international audience, because those people outside of Czechia are the ones who are going to be voting for you, not people within Czechia. So you could have a huge Czechia fan base like Benny Christo did, and it doesn't matter because people outside Czechia just do not care. So I understand why they're doing that if they're a delegation who needs to be very results focused. every delegation's results focus, but realistically, some delegations can come absolutely last every single year and they're still going to get their funding and be able to show up the next year. Some delegations don't have that luxury. Some people are saying, well, should they not be trying to grow the base in Czechia? I think the way you grow the base in Czechia is by getting a good result, because Czech people will tune into the final to see someone doing well. I don't think the majority of Czech people care about the national finals. Czechia is known for having very small interest in Eurovision compared to other countries. If you want to grow it, you do so at the actual contest, not in the national final 6 months earlier that most people would not even know it exists. A lot of Czech people don't even know that Eurovision exists. So I agree with their strategy of weighting more towards international votes, because that's going to give them a better indicator of who's going to do better. If you look at We Are Dami, they came fourth, I think, with the Czech televote, and then they won the international televote, and you saw how well that did. It would have done better if it wasn't drawn first. I think in a perfect world they would have a different system, but they're living paycheck to paycheck, so they got to pay them bills. Okay, so let's take a look at Czechia's results over the last 10 years, and we can see that they're ranked 28th out of the 44 countries who've competed in the last 10 years. Since they came back in 2015, they've qualified 5 of 8 times, and we've had those 2 top 10 finishes. So last year, Vesna just creeping into the top 10 by a couple of points, and then in 2018, that is, slide of me, Miklas Josef. Also amazing staging. I'm not sure if that was a different delegation though, or maybe some elements were different. I know Jan Bors used to be their head of delegation. I don't think he is anymore. Still, despite the fact that there's so little public support and clamour for their delegation, I think that they really overperform. And I do feel like Czechia is one of these countries that will win Eurovision eventually. It's not going to be this year. I don't think Aiko can win. If we just look at their qualification record, Czechia have a 50% record since 2008. But since they took that 5-year hiatus from 2010 until 2014, they've been 5 of 8, and 4 of those they've been top 4 in their semi-final. Lake Malawi actually came second in their semi-final. So at this point in time, my gut instinct is that this would be a borderline qualifier, but based on the history of the Czech delegation, of their ability to elevate, I'm expecting this to be a little bit more safer when we get to the semi-finals. We don't even know which semi-final this is and which half it's in, but I think regardless of where it is, it's going to stand out anyway, because nothing else is going to be like this. I think as a strategy, they need to lean into its unique identity, keep the energy, the wildness, anarchy on the stage, just make it look more polished, update the costumes, organize her movement better so she's able to get down on the floor but still able to sing and get all the notes out, and then really cool LEDs and just make it look and sound very, very different from everybody else. And then even if the song isn't as strong as some of the others, it's gonna just mop up its little niche because it won't have competition in that. Okay, so that's what I thought about Aiko singing Pedestal for Czechia. What do you think? Do you think this can qualify? It's still very early days. We only have 2 songs. Based on how good the song is, do you think it has a chance to make it into the Eurovision final? Leave me a spicy comment in the comment section down below. No new donations, but if you do want to support the channel, I'll leave links for you in the description down below. And of course, thank you to all of my Patreons for patronizing me from all over the world. On my Patreon channel, you can see the original versions of any videos that I copyrighted, some previews of videos coming up, and some early previews of videos as well. So go check that out if you're a fan of the channel. But as always, thank you so much just for watching. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in another Eurovision analysis video very soon. Goodbye. No, I'm not going straight into the thing, you dum-dum. I don't have my headphones either. Wah, wah.